morning. My name is Susan Byerly, and I'm a registered nurse enrolled at Liberty University Online, Course 490, Leadership in Nursing. I'm blessed to be able to interview one of my clinical care leaders in the emergency room today. Let me introduce you to Sandra. She's been a registered nurse for 20 years and our team leader for over 10 years. She has graciously agreed to let me interview her for this assignment on servant leadership. Good morning, Sandra. Thank you for allowing me this interview.
Good morning, Susan. This is going to be a wonderful opportunity to be able to share some of my leadership styles and some of the things that we do at Memorial Regional as in the emergency department where we work. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. So one of my first questions that we talk about in school is about servant leadership, which is a little bit different than other types of leaderships that sometimes you see within the hospital. Do you have a definition that you would think would be a servant leader?
So being a servant leader, I guess my first thought was leadership in general. So every day I go to work and I lead a group of people. We are a Catholic-based hospital, so therefore I feel like that God plays a large part into our leadership styles and our abilities to take care of our patients and focus on our staff in general. With that being said, I also function as a lieutenant at our fire department. So that's a totally different leader style in the fire department as opposed to being a nurse in the emergency department and leading a group of nurses and doctors sometimes. So I think about my community when I'm leading our fire department as a lieutenant, and that's more taking care of my community, taking care of my fellow firefighters. And then I come back to the emergency department and I'm thinking, our mission for Bon Secours, we always are focused on a goal. Nurses have transitioned such a large degree, I feel, in the last several years. We have a larger group of younger nurses, their thought processes and their ethics, and sometimes their just overall thinking process, their critical thinking style is a lot different than what I learned as an older nurse 20 years ago. So I always have to take into account the younger nurse, the older nurse, and then make those two merge and meet together, and that kind of creates my leadership style.
How do you think that leadership style empowers others? Do you have, your philosophy on that? Because with your daily, job description, you're not only doing the things that you need to do, but you're also trying to empower your employees.
That's true, Susan. So I think about how I would want to be treated as a patient and how I'd want my family member to be treated, and I try to empower and engage the group of nurses that I lead to have quality outcomes of their patients, but yet show that piece of compassion and that quality nursing that sometimes we get focused on what our mission is or what our goal is for the day, maybe getting that door to discharge time in check, and then sometimes we lose that piece of compassion. So I always try to bring my team back to what we're really put on earth to do, and that's to care for each other and to care for people, and to have an overall good quality outcome for our patients.
So how do you feel your fellow staff members in collaborating decisions during the day?
So like I just mentioned, sometimes we get into that trap of trying to meet our goals for the hospital or our organization. And we try to let our nurses, we do lots of shared governance within our hospital so that our nurses get to have the autonomy and they get to make decisions on what our processes are going to be. We do have lots of shared governance with our staff nurses actually being the chair folks for those committees. And that's where we decide what our processes are going to be, and in turn that kind of helps me in my leadership because it's my team of nurses that are deciding what they want to do and how they want to do it. Now I'm going to say there's times where certain things don't work. And so even though they may think it needs to be one way, as a leader, we have to maybe make a different decision. And sometimes that's a big struggle for being a bedside nurse and being in a higher position where you're trying to make the folks above you happy.
Mm-hmm. And so as a servant leader, one tends to think of a servant leader just empowering those that follow you to achieve their goals. And as a manager, you also have the aspect of the hospital financial aspects and what they want as a business. How do you incorporate the two of those?
So I can give you, just recently, our particular department has gone through a big role transition where our director is the same person. Our nurse manager recently has changed. And so with that change and just overall budgeting going on in the world of economy today, we have to be very mindful of the care we're providing for our patients, meeting their expectations, but still staying within our budget means. And that number crunching sometimes is a hard one to deal with. So just recently, we've had a nurse manager in our department for 30 years, and I think this is a good example of leadership. Her leadership style was very different, I'm going to say, than our new nurse manager that's just taken over. Our new manager is a little bit younger, where our old manager kind of was old school, do the same thing every day, really wasn't too engaged in a lot of change. Our new manager's come in and she can see things from a different perspective. She's more of a number cruncher, and I feel that we're going to make a lot of progress and a lot of change, and it's going to be more positive for our staff. But with that change, it's hard for people sometimes to comprehend or get their mind or hands wrapped around all of the change happening so quickly. So engaging our staff members to help us make a positive change sometimes can be difficult as a leader. I was trying to give you an example. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. It's there's definitely different types of leadership styles, and it sounds very evident that your department is seeing the differences in those styles itself. And do you feel that in being a servant leader that you're open to your staff when they have some feedback or suggestions and negotiating some changes within the department?
Very much so. We've always said in our department that there's always an open door policy, and that's for anyone. One of the biggest changes that I see coming forward with our new manager and with myself is having more of those crucial conversations with one another, not that nurse saying this one didn't do something and this one not wanting to talk to that one. We're going to be having many more crucial conversations at the moment, like real-time conversations, so that we can all be on the same page and that we, in the long run, will be more engaged as a team.
Sounds like you're definitely on a way to...
Well, part of my role is going to be the facilitator for those crucial conversations and to lead them to a more open communication style.
Have you had any pushback with the changes that are going on? And as a servant leader, knowing the importance of each individual and how the perceptions of the nursing staff and maybe the older staff that's been there and has done it this way versus the newer staff that's not really the way it's always been. Have any insight on how to help those nurses adjust to the change?
I think adjusting to change is something that each individual nurse will have to kind of figure out for themselves. My role will be to facilitate that change in a way that allows them to communicate maybe their fears, their anxieties, getting the change to occur so that it's good for everyone involved. And yes, we will, and I do commend them for coming and telling me what they feel, if they feel it's the right thing, the wrong thing, and having a lot of communication amongst ourselves so that we can create a positive change for our work environment.
And then you act as the liaison to your upper management to take those ideas and
Relay
thoughts.
that
to
information to, my bosses above me so that they know how our staff feels about what's going on within our department. Being like the first line, taking care of patients sometimes is the most difficult because you see how change impacts how we take care of our patients. And sometimes when you're crunching those numbers in an office and then you're standing at the bedside, you have to take both into account to make it really work for the organization, for the nurses, and for the patient.
Well, I appreciate you taking your time with me, Sandra, and I hope you have a blessed day.
Thank you. This was a wonderful opportunity, and I hope that, again, we can have another interview at any other time that you have any assignments due for school. I'd be happy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.